One thing is absolutely certain. Our relationship with the United States is definitely over as we know it, and a new trade deal is being redefined. But it's not going in Canada's favor. President Donald Trump last night just swung the freaking hammer and said, you know what? Tariffs, we're going to Mr. Beast it. We're going to double it and give it right back. We're going to double it. We are going to double it. So good job, Mark Carney. But Donald Trump is super duper angry with you. Also, Canada is burning to the ground. So we got a lot to take a look at in this video. Let's get started with the wildfires, shall we?
The Kiskatinaw River fire south of Dawson Creek has grown 11 square kilometers since Thursday afternoon. It's now at about 46 square kilometers. Kelly Lake resident Barb Belcourt, who had to evacuate to Dawson Creek, is having a hard time adjusting.
Devastating. It's heartbreaking because I've lived there 30 plus years.
Crews are working actively to stop the spread.
Over 60 wildfire personnel on the ground are currently working on the fire, being supported by heavy equipment, as well as aviation resources.
The province has thrown significant resources toward the fire, and structure protection is in place as of last evening. Unfortunately, we are looking at a challenging day forward with gusting winds and drought conditions in the area.
As wildfire season begins to impact the province, BC Wildfire Service warns that fire behavior is only expected to increase in June.
Looking at the information, Environment Canada has really good information. Often now we're seeing this, on your TV weather.
Where are our water bombers? Why don't we have water bombers for every single province in the masses? There should be 5 or 10 water bombers per province. I mean, we know that fire season gets crazy in Canada. We know that. Yet here we are just getting trampled by fires and dealing with thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands this year of evacuations. It's unsettling. It's disgusting. Why are our leaders so stupid? Our GDP went up. Our GDP went up 2 point whatever percent. Why aren't we putting that money back into our own economy and making sure that, I don't know, we can save our people and save our land? Nope, government just doesn't care. But hey, at least we're getting ourselves a new trade deal out of the mix, right? But before we get into that, I do have a message from today's sponsor. When I prepare my videos, I make sure that I know both sides of the story. That's why I use Ground News, and that's why I've partnered with them. Ground News is a website and app that pulls sources from thousands of different websites across the internet, organizes them by story, and shows you a visual breakdown of the political bias, ownership, and reliability. Take this story that's barely getting any attention to South Korea's bold arms deal to supply Canada with fighter jets and submarines instead of the United States. You'd think something like this would be on the front page, but apparently it's not. Ground News shows us that over 30 sources have covered the actual story. 67% of it is actually coming from the right. Left-leaning media outlets like CBC and Global News do cover the story, but they keep it surface level. Meanwhile, right-leaning outlets like 1945 dig deeper to point out the serious concerns about Canada's vulnerabilities. I actually found the story in my favorite spot of Ground News, the blind spot feed, which is where I go to find out which side is or isn't covering the story. Subscribe to my link down in the description or use the QR code on screen to get 40% off the Vantage plan today. That's the exact same plan that I use. Thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring today's video. Our relationship with America is over as we know it. At least that's not me saying that. That's our Prime Minister. For those who need a little refreshment, let's take a look.
The global economy is fundamentally different today than it was yesterday. The system of global trade anchored on the United States that Canada has relied on since the end of the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped to deliver prosperity for our country for decades, is over. Our old relationship of steadily deepening integration with the United States is over. The 80-year period when the United States embraced the mantle of global economic leadership, when it forged alliances rooted in trust and mutual respect, and championed the free and open exchange of goods and services, is over. While this is a tragedy, it is also the new reality. We must respond with both purpose and force. We are a free, sovereign, and ambitious country. We are masters in our own home.
Right. We are so free and we're so over with America that Trump has now decided to doubles down on steel and aluminum tariffs to go in effect as of Wednesday. Yeah, good job, Mark Carney. You're doing a great job so far.
Yet another tariff hike coming from the USA that could ripple across the border and hit Canada. Good evening. President Donald Trump sounded like he was back on the campaign trail, promising to double down on steel tariffs while in Steeltown, USA. The announcement deals another blow to manufacturers here in Ontario and in Quebec. CTV's Travis Fortnum joins us now with the latest and what's on the line here. Travis.
Ricardo, Canadian producers have already been fighting through that 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, with many dependent on exports to the U.S. Now, Trump says that's not enough.
We were getting our steel from Mexico. We were getting our steel from Canada. We were getting our steel from every place but right here.
The president making this announcement at a Pennsylvania steel plant, saying a 50% tariff will better protect American jobs from foreign competition. Canada shipped more than $7.6 billion worth of steel to the states last year. And while the president's message was aimed at American workers, his plan could further disrupt trade on both sides of the border, making it harder for Canadian steel to stay competitive.
That means that nobody's going to be able to steal your industry. It's at 25%, they can sort of get over that fence. At 50%, they can no longer get over the fence. I said tariffs is my favorite word, and I got slaughtered by these people.
The higher tariffs come amid a legal fight in the states, with a federal appeals court just this week allowing Trump to keep collecting them for now after a previous ruling found them illegal. Ricardo.
Okay, yeah.
So he literally wants to crush Canada, quite literally, because at 25%, it's somewhat manageable for Canada to deal with this. But at 50%, it's a whole lot more difficult, according to the president. And this is all thanks to Mark Carney. So congratulations, all you chicken dancers who voted for him with your elbows up. We are getting absolutely screwed and trampled. And here is what mainstream media has to say about the matter.
The impacts that this double tariff could have if Trump, in fact, goes ahead with it.
Yeah, well, here in Canada, you look at the amount of aluminum we produce, for example, just over 3 million tons a year, and just shy of 3 million of that is exported to the United States. You look at the amount of aluminum steel, I should say, that is being exported to the United States. It is a very significant amount. 24, almost 25% of all steel and iron imports in the U.S. come from Canada, and at 50%, it is an enormous threshold that you are asking consumers and U.S. customers to buy, and that poses a huge challenge for Canadian producers, so much so that the the Canadian Steel Association says this is essentially it for that market.
It essentially means that the U.S. market closes overnight for us. That means, in simple terms, 50% of what we produce heads to the United States. So that market will just shut instantly.
So good job. We are now completely more so on the brink of bankruptcy. Canada doesn't have a whole lot of ways that we make money. We are not very well diversified. Yet these things just keep pulling right from under us. The rug is getting pulled right from under us. And this could have been more properly managed with better leadership. But because it's Mark Carney, because it's the Liberals, because they just seem to think that we are entitled to these deals with America, we're being proven that, in fact, that's not accurate at all. We're not entitled to these deals. Nobody is. Trump has been very, very clear about that. And Canada's response has been nothing but threats. I'm going to shut off the power to 1.4 million homes, says the fat pig with rabies, who, by the way, is back in the news because, well, Doug Ford just met with Canada-U.S. Trade Council. Let's take a look at this.
Well, despite some back and forth in the U.S. courts, those tariffs are still very much a reality for Ontario and the rest of Canada. So this meeting was really about sharing ideas and making sure that there's some consensus. Players from labor and industries affected by tariffs streamed into the Premier's office. On the other side, Ontario's representative in Washington says the goal is to make some progress by a meeting of the G7 in Alberta in mid-June.
These ideas, these bits of feedback from all our different sectors are really important in terms of managing how the trade relationship goes.
Doug Ford emerges with what he calls ammunition as he prepares to meet with the Prime Minister and other premiers in Saskatchewan starting Sunday. On the agenda, so-called nation-building projects they can collaborate on to fuel the economy.
Number one has to be the Ring of Fire, and we also have to focus on building another nuclear facility.
Also on Ford's wish list, a James Bay deep-sea port, expansion of GO train service, and that proposed tunnel under Highway 401. Ford intends to use legislation to declare special economic zones to get those projects finished. The controversial designation would allow some municipal and provincial laws to be suspended.
We will as we move forward, but that only goes, again, with the cooperation of the 444 municipalities, always with the First Nations communities.
First Nations have vowed to push back on that bill in the courts and on the land, threatening to block rail lines, roads, and highways.
Wouldn't that be a disappointment? And they think they're going to be in favor, Ontarians and Canadians are going to be in favor when you block a railroad, you block a road. That's counterproductive. I'll tell you that right now.
Stressing the importance of dialogue. Ford is meeting with First Nations leaders soon.
Yeah, this is a problem with Canada. We always have these these massive blockades that take place when we're trying to build infrastructure and we're trying to scale. And I just say, you know what? Might as well just go dictator and just plow through it. Not the people, but just literally swipe your pen on your executive order so that you can build things, because Canada is falling behind. And unless we start to build and use our own steel and aluminum and gas, we're going to be still so reliant on America. And as we are finding out, that isn't a good and solid game plan. That's the end of the video, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in another one. Bye for now.